Hi everyone, this is Team 1 and today we're going to talk to you about our final presentation on Module 6. So our company is called Hogwarts School of Supply Chain Management. We're basically an extension of Hogwarts School of Wizardry and Witchcraft, and we were founded by Harry Potter. Within our main leaders of the company, we have and operators, we have Harry Potter, Hermione Granger, Ron Weasley, and all other famous wizards that are helping us achieve high profits and be the best company in supply chain management in the market. Some of the leaders of the house, so the leaders of the houses are Gryffindor, myself, Hufflepuff, Maria Jose Martinez, Slytherin, Xiaobin Zhou, and Ravenclaw, Jing Cheng Sun.
So we cast spells and use potions to produce the clothing of the highest quality possible. Our objective is to use magic to manufacture the best clothing at the best prices and complete our missions on time. And we want to provide incredible quality of products at the fastest pace possible. And our main mission is to be the best wizards in manufacturing and in muggles' hearts.
So before we jump into our presentation, here's an overview of what we'll talk about today. First, we'll discuss the results of the game, which includes financials, reputation, all that good stuff. And then we'll talk about the strategy of what we use and overall strategy, as well as the individual strategies and how we pivoted along the way. Then we'll talk about our experience as well as some issues encountered. And then we'll go over the critique of the game because there were actually a ton of bugs along the way. And then finally, we'll end our presentation with some key takeaways. But first, let's go into the results.
Okay, so the first part is something about the results, about the financials, reputation, time, and quality. And here we can see the final results. We have net worth, reputation, and also other data from this picture. It's notable that the net worth at the end of the terms is around $650,000, which is unbelievable. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is the financials. Here we can see the chart. There are several data points that we need to mention. The first is week 12, where we achieve our lowest net worth in week 12, which is minus $25,000. It's partly because of the strategy that we took, which will be discussed later. And the second point is week 19, where we actually turn our net worth positive. That means after week 19, we're actually making profit, and finally the net worth just goes steadily high and achieve in week 96, we've achieved the highest net worth, which is $650,000 that I just mentioned before. And the next thing we're gonna look at is the reputation. At the beginning of this game, we have 100 reputation at first, and then each time we finish the contract before the deadline that we promised, we will receive a reputation ranging from 40 to 50. If we finish the contract on time, the reputation we receive will range from 30 to 40, and we only receive 0 to 10 while we slightly miss the deadline. And because reputation is directly related to our bidding, like one-star company can only accept a one-star company's bidding. So the initial goal of our reputation is to maximize to 4-star as soon as possible. And fortunately, at the end of the game, we've achieved 3,633 reputation. And here is the timeliness and quality. We've finished the contract 95% of contracts on time with 97% of quality satisfaction. It's not that high, but I think it's good enough. And here's the comparison to our competitors. First, we're gonna compare our result to the class average, and we can see that this final score of our company is 99%, which is quite higher than the average. But and also the net worth and contract completed are also above average. However, the contract that completed on time and also the contract value are a little below the average. And here are three data I want to mention in the comparison. The first is the score. We've achieved 99% of score, which ranked third among all the competitors. And for reputation, we ranked the fourth. And for net worth, we ranked the third. And also there is also another number I want to mention is the net worth over contract value ratio. We've achieved the ratio to 56.5%, which means that we've generated a lot from each contract that we receive. And this ratio is the second highest among all the competitors.
Yeah, so after going over the results, I'll go over some strategies, what were the winning spells and moves that we used along the way. Before we jump into that, I want to again recap the distribution of how the score and what our goal is made out of. We have about 35% net worth, 35% reputation, 30% timeliness. So we know to prioritize net worth and reputation, then prioritize the timeliness aspect. So here's an overview of our strategy. First, we wanted to maximize, again, like Jingchen talked about, to get to 4 stars so we can get those high value contracts. And before that, we just focus on maximizing reputation, building machines, and losing money along the way is okay. And in the middle stages, we started to look at how to maximize our net worth and in order to get to that high point of 650,000 in the end. And in order to do that, we accepted with the high reputation, some of the high value contracts from those companies. And then along the way, throughout all the stages, we also focus on the timeliness aspect, although that wasn't done perfectly, which we'll talk about later in the issues and counterpart. But first, let's jump into the initial strategies of turn 1 to 20. Like I already said in the overview, we wanted to minimize costs, maximize reputation, and grow in capacity in order to prepare us for later stages. Specifically for machines, we purchased and upgraded as soon as possible. For receiving and shipping, we kept the employees to a minimum to reduce costs because all the orders we accepted were not high in terms of the quantity they want, but we only accepted the ones that are low, but we accepted a lot of them in order to grow reputation. For HR, we trained for better customer service because we need that later. With a poor customer service, some companies will not accept your bid. And for bidding, we accepted, again, fast and easy contracts to add to reputation. So that was our initial strategy. From turn to 21 to 76, our overall strategy was to maximize profits, utilization, timeliness, quality, basically all aspects that we needed to focus on. More specifically, we maxed out on all the existing machines in terms of the machine part. For receiving and shipping, we hired more employees to sort. That was actually one of the biggest issues that we encountered throughout the game, because at one point we didn't realize that there was actually a bottleneck there in the sorting. We were wondering why machines were not working as fast as they can, which we'll talk about later as well. For HR, we kept the same because we didn't feel like it was needed to have more employees because companies were accepting our bids quite easily. In terms of bidding, we accepted higher quantity and higher profit margins in order to grow in net worth. For our end game strategies, which is from turn 76 to 96, our overall strategy is to catch up on reputation, continue making those profits, and then finally, the more important part, timing turns so that we end all the contracts finished. For machines, we decided to utilize until the end because that was actually one of the major things we had to determine was either to sell everything, I think, before turn 88, or kept them going because we believe that we can make more profit. But we kept it going all the way till 96. For receiving and shipping, we fired not needed employees because towards the end, there were just not that many contracts that we accepted because of the timeliness aspect. For HR, we kept the same, only one employee throughout the game, which might have been a good idea, might not be. But overall, companies accepted our bids, so I think it was okay. In terms of bidding, we accepted contract with consideration of time, obviously. In terms of comparing to the middle stages, we didn't just accept anything that has a high profit margin or high value. But yeah, that was an overall of our strategy.
Now we'll talk about applying supply chain charms. So first, customer relationship management. As already mentioned, we only had one employee in the HR management part. However, we made sure of training that employee to 3 or 4 stars to have a reputation high and make sure that bids were not rejected and the bids we wanted were actually accepted. We also, when we did the training, we had to keep the cost in mind. And also we trained the employees very well. For supply management and sourcing. So we identified the needs and developed purchase specifications by identifying, assessing, and also selecting suppliers. Moreover, we had to manage ongoing supplier relationships. Within that, we also had to keep an eye on for bottlenecks and be careful with all of the processes that were happening at the same time. We had to check quality and lead time of suppliers to better fit with the contracts we had. We also wanted to provide the highest quality products, the highest quality service, but we had to keep the expenses in mind and balance them out with what we were earning.
Some other strategies that we implemented that we learned from our supply chain class was the theory of constraints, capacity planning, bottleneck, margin of errors, machine utilization. So first of all, we determined the process where the production capacity meets demand to align sales with our demand forecast. Aligning them proved to be one of the best strategies we could have implemented because it helped reduce costs and get better contracts. Our margin of errors, we wanted to reduce the margin of errors in receiving the supplies we ordered because, for example, sometimes we would order 200 of one unit of one item, such as silk, and then got 150, which increased possibilities of bottlenecks and not being able to produce at the maximum capacity per week. We also avoided bottlenecks, as explained before, by making sure that employees were producing effectively. And finally, when machines weren't upgraded, we were at risk of having stops and bottlenecks in our production. So we always try to make sure that they were upgraded to their best level and that they were utilized at all the time. So our production runs went smoothly. And we will talk a little bit more about this later. And finally, we decided to produce in batches because that would be the most cost effective and eventually produce economies of scale, helping us increase our account balance. Next, we have demand planning and inventory management. So for demand planning, we wanted to purchase materials if we knew that the bid was going to be accepted, because then if we purchase materials because we only wanted to, our holding costs would have been very high and we would be incurring unnecessary expenses that would only make us less profitable. We also used the season book to see what customers were demanding per season to buy the required materials for production and create a demand forecast. Also to manage our inventory of raw materials and our finished goods, we wanted to make sure that they were going from the receiving station to the machine and the production station. And as soon as the product was finished, we shipped them out ASAP to avoid holding costs. And as we know, we have logistics management, which is concerned with the movement and storage of materials to meet customer needs and organizational objectives. If we let the supplies sitting at the receiving station, then we would be delayed in production to meet our client contracts. And that eventually would have led to issues affecting our timeliness. And finally, we only bought required materials for production and we didn't make to order production, which means that we only produced if we had an order. If not, we didn't.
Now we'll talk about the experience with our game. So first, the complexity of the game was very high. We had to keep track of every aspect in the manufacturing process and in the logistics. So for each of the different seasons, we specialized on one or two products because it was easier to keep track of the material count and maximize our profit strategies. We also had to keep in mind expenses and balance them out with the profit earned in contracts. And we tried to reduce the time we had to complete the bids because we could reduce expenses in shipping and ordering. Our favorite item to produce was the dress since it was very profitable. And this game was had a very realistic experience because of the amount of processes that we had to keep in check and have them aligned in also in order to create value chain. So for the issues encountered, what were the main obstacles we faced in this quest? So on-time management. On-time management was not done very well in the middle stages. Several orders were delivered late because there was a bottleneck we didn't realize in sorting capacity. The quality was sometimes also not managed very well since we did not inspect the products to save time and effort to complete the bids faster. Some bottlenecks we had was the margin of error in supplies delivered, the correct amount of supplies for bids, and enough time for bids. We had a bottleneck in the sorting capacity and in the shipping capacity, since sometimes it was not enough for the quantity of products we had to ship out, and the utilization rates were not near 100%.
So some game critiques that we wanted to talk about, and basically where spells went wrong or go wrong, sorry. Okay, so first of all, we have a lot of glitches in the game. Sometimes it became slow and it got stuck in the middle of a production run, which obviously made us a little bit delayed. Also for certain buyers, it's very hard to guess at what price and what weeks the buyers will accept the order. And sometimes reasonable prices were not even accepted. Also, there's not a competitive analysis. Like there's no way that we could keep track of other teams and see how we're doing compared to them. So it would have been great to have like a competitive analysis that runs on real time to see where we could improve and where we couldn't, where we're doing better than the rest. Also, reputation was very misleading in terms of what it measures because we were not sure what we were doing wrong. We were also not sure on where to improve and how to increase our reputation score. And also, it doesn't provide a lot of shipping alternatives. Like we're stuck only with the land option, and we would like to see air, sea, railways, and also make customizable shipping orders. Not by that we mean to allow users to input the exact number of supplies that we need instead of only up to 250. And finally, for customer service, sometimes we got feedback from our clients saying that we weren't having good customer service, but the game doesn't even let us communicate with clients on order status and other stuff. So if the game would have let us communicate it, then we would be able to actually practice on customer service and being able to provide customer service to the customers. But because it doesn't even provide us the option and we don't know what we're doing wrong, we're gonna if we get comments from our clients, we're not even going to know what we did wrong. And then for improvements on ourselves, what could we have done better? First of all, we have total quality management. So as said before, sometimes our quality wasn't 100%, and because we weren't inspecting our products before delivering them, and we had a 3% that wasn't satisfied. So we could increase that. For timeliness, we had 5% that was not completed on time because we did not estimate well utilization rates as well as the sorting capacity of materials. So if we sorted our supplies better, we may have had a higher timeliness rate. And finally, for machine utilization and employees utilization rates, it was nowhere near machine utilization rates were nowhere near 100, and we could have upgraded them at the beginning or faster to get best results out of our machines, and it would have been an improvement. And for utilization of employees, sometimes we had more employees than we needed, and then we were incurring unnecessary labor expenses. So for example, we had 4 employees for receiving, but sometimes we didn't actually need them.
So the final takeaways, what did we learn from this quest? So firstly, investments are key to being profitable. The training of employees, the investments in machinery, it would help for the faster completion of bids. If we purchase high quality supplies, we would make high quality products and we'll have a high quality reputation and customer satisfaction, which will keep our net worth growing. Planning out moves before doing them is critical. So as mentioned already, not buying supplies before the bid is accepted, and know how to organize the manufacturing and shipping capacity in order to meet the contract deadlines. Organization was the master of all our spells, and satisfying customers is the best way to increase reputation. Always think about the theory of constraints and know how to deal with variability, and what other options or moves could be done if something does not go as planned or if we encounter a bottleneck, as we did. And check all areas to identify bottlenecks, as we already mentioned. And if you see something is not working, in our case, it was the sorting capacity, what can be done to improve or have another result.
And that concludes our presentation. We really liked the game. I hope you guys did as well. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.